All right, good evening. Thank you all for coming to this evening's panel discussion, which is titled Oil Workers and Alcohol, a Potent Mix. I first want to thank the Williston Community Library for hosting this talk, and I also want to thank my assistants Nathan Matson and Kit Cross for their help in producing and recording this event, which is part of Prairie Public Radio's project, High Risk High, Youth Drinking in North Dakota. We wanted to come to Williston and look at the issue of alcohol use among workers because there are so many people pouring into the Williston area from all parts of the country. They're making good money, but they're working very long hours. The work is hard. The men and some women are often a long ways from home. They're separated from their families. And so all of these factors kind of give certain people a susceptibility to drinking that might not exist otherwise. So that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about alcohol use among workers in the oil patch. And I want to introduce my guests. Tom Volk is a former oil industry worker, and he's currently the Alcohol Prevention or the Substance Abuse Prevention Coordinator for the Williston region. Taryn Brenna is an addictions counselor at the Mercy Recovery Center. And Steve Larvick is the owner of American Casing and Equipment. Okay, so Tom, I would like to start with you. Just give us a little bit of background, what you did in the oil industry and how long you worked in the industry.
Well, I moved back to Williston about 2 years ago, and I worked as a well servicing rig hand and moved up to lead floor hand and then was assistant operator.
How did you observe alcohol use among the men that you were working with, given that I'm assuming they weren't actually being stupid enough to drink right on the job?
Right. Yeah, there was no drinking on the job. Our company had very strict policies towards drinking, but our culture in North Dakota is a work hard, play hard culture. These guys would get off work around 9 o'clock at night sometimes, and they would go to the bar, and they would drink at the bar for a few hours and go to bed and be up again at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work.
Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and what your company does and how many workers you employ?
We do a lot of different things in the oil field. From digging rat holes, which is the pilot hole. Before a rig ever gets there, we dig that, and then we got crews that go out and pick up drill pipe for the rigs.
So what percentage of your employees would you say have or have had some kind of a problem with alcohol?
15 or 20 that I could think right offhand.
Currently?
Currently.
Is it something, Steve, that you're able to sense when a guy shows up hungover or potentially even still drunk?
Well, it's hard to tell because with what we do, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So these guys, they don't have set schedules. So when they go out and drink, they get off a job, hit the bar, they could go to work an hour later.
How much do you test for alcohol as compared with drugs?
We do a pre-employment test, and that I think that is drug and alcohol, but random UAs every 3 months, they draw about 8 people that have to go take randoms, and instead of calling them a day ahead of time, we call them right at the last minute and say you got to be up there in 15 minutes, and that doesn't give them time to clean up and use that flush. They got to, and then if they aren't up there in 15, 20 minutes, we know that they're up to something, and we let them go.
Taryn, what percentage of your clients work in the oil industry are dealing with alcohol problems?
Most of the men that come through our facility at one point in their life worked in the oil field.
Do most of the guys agree, yeah, I need to be here, I have a problem, or what's the general attitude?
It can be a full spectrum of things, but usually they want to still keep their job because they are making so much money, so they're gonna do whatever they need to do, I guess.
So how do you work with the men then? How do you try to help them with that?
Our whole program is, we're a 12-step AA-based program, so we like to use AA, set them up with a sponsor. We use cognitive therapy, family therapy, having their family confront them on their behavior.
Steve, you go and you talk to groups of the men, right?
I'm an addict myself and been there, done that, and I don't try to preach to anybody or anything like that. I just tell them the road I've been down, and sobriety is a good thing. I mean, it's a lot different than I would ever thunk, but it's a good thing, and it's a great life, and I don't want to lose everything I have.
I know you worked in the oil fields back when you were younger. Was it that work that kind of got you started with drinking? I mean, do you think there was something about the work itself that led you to that?
It's brutal. I mean, everybody did it. It was like one of the things on the application. You got to be able to work all day and all night and then drink the rest of the time. I mean, it was that bad. And I'm not blaming it on nobody else, but everybody did it, back in the day. And I mean, we would drink right on location.
What's the bigger issue or the bigger problem, drug use or alcohol use? Tom, what do you say to that?
Well, from my perspective, it's alcohol use across the board. I mean, the state of North Dakota has an alcohol issue, and you can see it in all of our data, from middle school data, high school data, to adult data. And the Williston region ranks above the state in all categories almost of alcohol use, as well as the nation in alcohol use. So like lifetime use, 80% of our students, high school students in this region, have tried alcohol more than one time.
And a lot of these kids are coming out of school and they're going right into jobs in the oil fields.
Yep. So they're bringing this characteristic with them.
Tom, you work in alcohol prevention now.
Yep.
What do you want to see happen in the oil field industry to reduce drinking, to reduce alcohol problems and addictions, and just to deal with the issue generally?
Well, I think it needs to be taken seriously. I think there's a lot of liability, and these companies have to realize that they have the liability to make sure everybody's safe. There has to be some more random testing. I believe that even just informing the employees themselves of the risks and the dangers of the drinking and the way they're drinking, I think that would help a lot too, because I honestly don't even know if these guys realized that they were more impaired the morning of work than they were the night before they were drinking.
I think Tom was very right with the education and the awareness piece. Just educating these young men on how dangerous it is to work impaired, and what could possibly happen, I think would benefit them a lot.
If you don't want it yourself, I mean, awareness and treatment,
That's
nothing's
right.
going to do you any good. I mean, somehow, I mean, something's got to happen. I don't know how it would happen, but something drastic's got to happen, like what happened to me, before they hit rock bottom and before they realize just how dangerous it is, because people just don't take it seriously.
I think what you're doing, Steve, as far as going and talking to different groups of people about your experience, I mean, I would imagine that's pretty impacting to some of your clients, Taryn, right? How do they respond when they hear him?
Steve is highly valued at our facility. Yes, definitely. I think they relate. They realize that they're not the only one that has that problem, and Steve sharing his story is really beneficial for them. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank Tom Volk, Taryn Brenna, and Steve Larvick for being my guests this evening, and for all of you for coming out. It was a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.